Hey folks, Doug Blake with Body Design University. In this video, I want to give you three tips on how to deal with shoulder joint muscle imbalances. And I'm simply talking about the internal and external rotation component of the shoulder joint. Really, really important that you know how to deal with this. Now, I will say that right from the get-go, when I first started training people many years ago, it became apparent that the concept of really poor posture was creating more problems and issues than what I originally thought when I actually started working out and working with the average client. Now, I've been working with trainers and other athletes, so working with trainers to kind of discern best programming and things to do to help their clients, and of course, working with athletes, it became even more clear that not only were the trainers that I spoke with and dealt with and helped and assisted that they were dealing with these issues, but the athletes that I was dealing with even more so struggled a lot with trying to figure out issues and problems with their shoulder and shoulder girdle. That ultimately, a lot of it came down to some basic issues related to imbalances between the internal and external rotator muscles. And so that's what I want to kind of go over today and give you a couple of tips. So these three tips can be really, really effective. Two of them can essentially, and well, I shouldn't say it too overwhelming for you, but two of them can actually eliminate some basic issues right off the bat, literally within a couple of days of doing these two exercises consistently. But I'm going to give you three basic tips. And again, two of those are really, really good. The third one is going to really help you a lot, I think, because a lot of folks are doing this one thing I'm going to tell you not to do. They're doing this one thing, which is actually causing more problems than is necessary. So, but before I get going, please make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the like button as well. And by the way, the notification bell is there to help you to see whether or not you've got new content coming in from the channel. Now, we do this pretty much every week, so you should see the notifications coming in on a regular basis. Now, back to your shoulder rotator imbalances, right? So you have internal, external rotation. The normal understanding is that from a kinesiological perspective, the main muscles in the anterior part of the chest, so the pectoralis, for instance, and the back, the latissimus, do opposite movement patterns, right? And in one sense, they do. But from a kinesiological perspective, keep in mind the pectoralis major on the front of your body, large muscle, right? I would say probably the largest muscle, strongest muscle for sure in the upper part of your anterior portion of your body. So on your back, you got your lats, right? And so they both do one thing the same, and that's kinesiologically known as internal rotation. So I just want to make sure we're clear on the basic science, the kinesiologies, that your pectoralis major and your latissimus dorsi, although yes, they do opposing kinesiological functions. In other words, flexion for the pecs, shoulder flexion, the lats shoulder extension. Absolutely antagonistic in that way. They both adduct, and more importantly, they both internally rotate the shoulder. So in this video, the more pertinent components are what they do the same that are more problematic. I hope that makes sense. So you've got some of the largest muscles in the upper body providing the highest levels of tension and output, doing the same kinesiological function. Okay. So the tip number one that I want to help you out with here is to train your external rotators in a adducted position. And when I say adducted, I'm talking about shoulder adduction, where the arm is down at your side. So adduction is the movement, right, of a limb, body part, whatever, moving closer to the midline of the body. So adduction is the movement itself, right? The arm coming down. An adducted position means that you are in that final state of adduction, right? So adduction, add the arm. You've heard this, add the arm back to the body. So tip number one is train your external rotators, and there are two of them, two main external rotators. Technically, I guess you could say the posterior fibers of the deltoid are going to assist, but it's not the main external rotator at the shoulder. So in an adducted position, I want you to do external rotator movements. Generally, it's with bands or with a cable machine that's going to allow for the resistance force, line of force to be opposing the external rotator motion that you're going through. By the way, holding a dumbbell and doing this, I'm not sure what you're doing, but it has nothing to do with strengthening your external rotators. I see people doing this all the time. That's not part of the video. I'm just telling you, I don't know what you're doing because the line of force is straight down. It's called gravity. No, the line of force needs to be going away and opposing the line of pull. Does that make sense? So the line of force is generally going to be produced, or at least the tension is going to counteract the external, which means that the line of force is moving this way. Generally, we use a band or a cable machine to do that. So tip number one is train the external rotators in an adducted position. I know for those of you that want to know, the teres minor and the infraspinatus, those are your two main external rotators at the shoulder joint. It's part of the SITS acronym, SITS, supraspinatus, infraspinatus. Supraspinatus is technically an internal rotator. Infraspinatus is an external rotator. SIT, teres minor, external rotator, and then the subscapularis. It's a stabilizer, but technically you could call it an internal rotator depending on the position. We're not going to get into that. The point is that you've got the infraspinatus, teres minor. So I want you to, tip number one is in an adducted position, do external rotation movements. Get it? So that's tip number one. Tip number two, really simple, is move the arm into an abducted, abduction position. Now my arm is away from the body, and again, do external rotation movements. Again, recommendation is I like to use like a band that is somehow like with my foot connected to the floor or whatever, or again, a cable machine. You could even use just a dumbbell. The dumbbell, of course, limits your effective range of motion due to the biomechanics of the line of pull. So you can only go from here to here, but I will say that's better than nothing. So tip number one, adducted position, external rotators, abducted position, external rotation movement. So that's two. Now, here is the third tip. By the way, those two, remember what I said, just those two alone, if you do those 15 reps, 20 reps, relatively light. I would not go overboard on the amount of weight you're using on these. I'm more interested in the overall capacity of those two muscles to work for extended periods of time. So we're more interested in muscle endurance. And so, yes, you can do 15, 20, even I've done very high repetitions with some folks, particularly when I'm just starting them out, just so that they can increase the overall endurance capacity of those muscles to externally rotate the humerus in the shoulder joint itself and keep them there like that. Again, don't do heavy resistance with these exercises. 15 to 20, smooth and controlled. It's not necessary to go all the way out and all the way in. Just putting some tension on those guys is going to be helpful. So those two, right off the bat, are going to or can make a profound difference, benefit to your clients, to yourself as well. So what's the third one? Okay, so here's what I often see, especially with athletes and some sports level folks, fitness folks that are at very high fitness levels, is they generally think that if they train their external rotators, then should you train? You should train your internal rotators. So it is probably one of the worst things you could do, no matter who you are, no matter what sport you are in, no matter how often you train, doing purposeful internal rotation work is one of the worst things. And it is a recommendation never to do that unless, way over here, your doctor, your sports medicine physician, for whatever reason, and it would have to be really specific reason, tells you to. That is the only reason you would ever train purposely internal rotation. You know why? Because of what I told you at the beginning of this video. The two main most powerful internal rotators, you're already training them on a regular basis. It's one of the reasons why we have muscle imbalances in the rotator muscles at the shoulder joint itself. What are the two main internal rotators at the shoulder? That's right, your pectoralis and your latissimus dorsi. Remember what I said, both of those muscles, even though they are on opposite sides of your torso, two of each of their three kinesiological functions are the same. Very simply, from a very basic perspective, remember, the lats and the pecs do three basic things kinesiologically. They both adduct the shoulder joint. Get that? They both adduct the shoulder joint. That is like a main kinesiological function of both of those muscles. So that's the same. What's the other one that's exactly the same? They are both internal rotators at the shoulder joint. The only difference between the lats and the pecs is that one flexes and one extends. Okay, so they are antagonistic in that one basic, group kinesiologically coupling, that kinesiological coupling of extension and flexion. Okay, well, that's fine. The problem is that every time you train your chest, every time you train your back, you are training the adductive nature of the muscles and their internal rotation capacity. So strong pecs, we want strong pecs, strong lats, and we want strong lats. Guess what they're doing? They are pulling you into this poor postural position if you are not counteracting the external rotator components at the shoulder joint. I hope that makes sense. You're already doing internal rotation. So anybody that is now telling you to train internal rotators at the shoulder is actually going to ultimately cause more problems than anything else. Now, again, just saying, unless a physician or doctor says, look, you need to train internal as well, they're doing that for a completely different reason than what we're talking about when it comes to resistance training and shoulder strength balancing between internal and external rotators. What are the three? What are they again? The three tips I'm giving you. One, train external rotation in an adducted position, shoulder adducted, meaning the elbow to the side, external, right, pulling this way. That's one. Second one is in an abducted position, pulling up this way. So the resistance is going down this way in some way, shape, or form, and you're pulling up against it, keeping that elbow in the right position. Okay, great way to train the external rotators as well. And then the third tip is don't do internal rotator work. Again, it's one of the worst things you can do, and it's just completely unnecessary. The last thing you need to do, ladies and gentlemen, is strengthen more the internal rotator kinesiological functions at the shoulder joint. If you want to become a certified and qualified personal fitness trainer, click on the link below in the description box. If this was helpful, in a little comment section, go ahead and write the word understand. If you got other questions, you can write them in that comment box below as well. Kind of help us out if there's more information you need on this particular topic or any other topic. Just let us know how we can be of assistance. And as always, have a great week. We'll see you next week. Bye.